Belfast is the capital of Northern Ireland, but it is also much more than an administrative centre. It is a city built around a river, a sea route, and a long struggle over identity. Sitting on the banks of the River Lagan, connected through Belfast Lough to the North Channel, Belfast grew because it could move people, goods, and ideas between Ireland, Scotland, Britain, and the wider world. That geography made it a natural port. But geography alone does not explain Belfast. Its story is about how a modest settlement became a centre of industry, how economic success intensified social divisions, and how a city marked by conflict is now trying to define itself through culture, services, education, and new forms of urban life. The name Belfast comes from the Irish Beal first, usually linked to the mouth of a ford or sandbank. That origin points to an older landscape before mills, cranes, shipyards, and modern roads. The River Lagan mattered because crossings and waterways shaped where people settled and traded. Belfast's later importance came from this practical position, close enough to the sea for shipping, but also connected to inland districts that could supply labor, food, and raw materials. Over time, this river location became the foundation for a port city. Even today, understanding Belfast begins with the water. The river and lough did not simply decorate the city, they made its commercial rise possible and tied it to routes beyond Ireland. Belfast was chartered as an English settlement in 1613, placing its growth inside the wider political transformation of Ireland under English and Scottish influence. One of the most important groups in the town's early development was the Scottish Presbyterian community. They were Protestant, but they were not part of Ireland's Anglican establishment, which held privileged political and religious status. This created a complicated social position. Many Presbyterians were loyal to aspects of British culture and trade, yet they also resented exclusion from the official establishment. In the late 18th century, that resentment helped fuel reformist and revolutionary politics. Belfast was not always the straightforward unionist symbol it later became. Its early political culture included dissent, radicalism, and arguments about rights. The rebellion of 1798 and the political changes that followed pushed Belfast into a new era. After the Act of Union came into effect in 1801, Ireland was joined with Great Britain inside the United Kingdom. For Belfast, that relationship brought access to British capital, shipping networks, and imperial markets. These connections changed the scale of the town. Investment flowed into factories, docks, warehouses, and infrastructure. Belfast's merchants and industrialists could sell into a much larger economic world, and the city's port gave them the means to do it. The 19th century turned Belfast from a regional town into a major industrial centre. Its growth was fast, ambitious, and deeply tied to the British economic system. Linen was the industry that first made Belfast world famous. By the time Belfast received city status in 1888, it had become the largest centre of linen manufacture on earth. This was not a small specialist trade. It shaped the whole urban economy, from flax processing and spinning to weaving, finishing, exporting, and finance. The nickname Linenopolis captured Belfast's place in the global textile economy. Yet the grandeur of linen rested on hard factory labor. Many workers, including large numbers of women, spent long hours in mills under difficult conditions. Linen created wealth, civic pride, and international reputation, but it also produced crowded working-class districts and sharp inequalities. Belfast's industrial success always had a human cost. Shipbuilding became Belfast's second great industrial identity. By the early 20th century, Belfast shipyards were producing up to a quarter of all United Kingdom tonnage. Harland and Wolff became the best-known name, with its yards. Symbolizing engineering power, maritime ambition, and the city's connection to global trade. The Titanic is the most famous ship associated with Belfast, but the broader story is bigger than one vessel. Shipbuilding required huge coordination: designers, engineers, riveters, metalworkers, dockers, suppliers, and transport links. It gave Belfast a reputation for skill and scale. It also reinforced the city's place within Britain's maritime economy, making industry part of political identity as well as employment. Industrial expansion brought population change. Work in mills, docks, and shipyards drew people from rural districts, including many Catholics moving into what had been a largely Protestant town. This migration did not automatically create conflict, but it increased pressure on housing, jobs, and political representation. In Belfast, religion, class, and national identity became tightly connected. Catholic and Protestant communities often worked in the same city but lived through different institutions, schools, churches, clubs, newspapers, and political movements. The question of Ireland's future sharpened these divisions. For some, remaining in the United Kingdom protected industry and identity. For others, Irish self-government or independence represented justice and national belonging. The city became a map of competing loyalties. The early 1920s turned Belfast's tensions into sustained violence. As Ireland moved through war, partition, and the creation of new political borders, Belfast became a flashpoint. Between 1920 and 1922, sectarian violence involved communities, paramilitary forces, and security forces. When most of Ireland moved toward independence, 6 northeastern counties remained in the United Kingdom as Northern Ireland, and Belfast became its capital. For Unionists, the city represented the industrial and political heart of a British Northern Ireland. For nationalists, it represented a state they often saw as built against their aspirations. Belfast's status as a capital was therefore not a neutral fact. It was born from partition and carried the unresolved conflict into everyday politics. From the late 1960s to the late 1990s, Belfast became one of the central stages of the Troubles. The conflict emerged from civil rights demands, policing disputes, discrimination, constitutional arguments, and deep community fear. It escalated into decades of violence involving Republican and Loyalist paramilitaries, police forces, the British Army, and civilians. Soldiers, checkpoints, raids, bombings, shootings, funerals, and murals became part of the city's visual language. The Troubles were often described in religious terms, but religion mainly marked deeper political identities. The conflict was about sovereignty, territory, citizenship, security, memory, and the future of Northern Ireland. For ordinary residents, it meant navigating danger not as history, but as daily life. One of the most enduring legacies of Belfast's conflict is physical separation. In several working-class areas, Protestant and Catholic neighborhoods are still divided by barriers often called peace walls. The phrase sounds hopeful, but the structures reveal how serious the fear had become. Walls, fences, gates, and reinforced boundaries were built to reduce violence, yet they also fixed division into the landscape. Streets that might connect communities instead stop or turn away. Murals and flags continue to mark identity, memory, and territory. The peace process reduced large-scale violence, but it did not instantly rebuild trust. Belfast shows how conflict can survive in architecture, routine, and neighborhood geography long after formal agreements are signed. The Good Friday Agreement of 1998 changed Belfast's trajectory. It created a political framework for power sharing, consent, security changes, prisoner releases, and new relationships between Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, and the United Kingdom. For Belfast, the agreement helped make investment, tourism, nightlife, and city centre regeneration more realistic. The city also began to change politically. Once strongly controlled by Unionists, Belfast has shifted toward a more mixed electoral landscape, with growing support for Irish nationalist parties but no simple overall majority. At the same time, more residents now identify with neither traditional camp, and newer immigrant communities are adding further diversity. Belfast is still shaped by old identities, but it is no longer only defined by them. Modern Belfast is rebuilding its economy around services, technology, tourism, education, and culture. Financial technology has become important, drawing on skilled workers and university talent. tourism has grown around Titanic heritage, political history, architecture, music, and the wider appeal of Northern Ireland. The redeveloped harbour estate has attracted film production, turning former industrial space into part of a global screen economy. Yet Belfast has not completely abandoned its industrial past. It still has commercial docks, aerospace and defence contractors, and a reduced but symbolically important Harland and Wolff shipyard. The city's waterfront shows this mixture clearly: old industrial infrastructure beside new cultural, commercial, and creative uses. Belfast is adapting rather than simply starting over. Belfast also occupies a unique position after Brexit. Under the Windsor framework, Northern Ireland remains within the United Kingdom's internal market while applying aspects of European Union's single market rules for goods. That arrangement exists because Northern Ireland shares a land border with the Republic of Ireland, making trade rules politically sensitive. For Belfast, this creates both complexity and potential opportunity. Businesses operate in a space connected to the UK while still affected by EU-facing goods rules. The city is also supported by major institutions such as Queen's University Belfast and Ulster University, and since 2021 it has held UNESCO City of Music status. These details matter because they show a city building identity through education, culture, and strategic location, not only through memory of conflict. Belfast is often reduced to a handful of images: Titanic, murals, peace walls, and the Troubles. Those images are important, but they are incomplete. Belfast is a city where a river port became an industrial giant, where linen mills and shipyards created wealth and pride, where migration and politics hardened into division, and where violence left marks still visible in streets and neighborhoods. But it is also a city of students, musicians, filmmakers, entrepreneurs, tourists, and communities that do not fit neatly into old categories. Its story is not simple recovery, because the past is still present. It is a story of reinvention under pressure. Belfast keeps carrying its history while trying to become more than the conflicts that once defined it. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.